Hey family, thank you for tuning into this special episode of Faith on the Journey. And for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Jocelyn. I'm an author and a minister, but more importantly, I'm just a sister on this journey called life, trying to grab hold of the promises that God has for me. And I want to take you on this ride with me. In other words, I want to be on this journey of faith with you. When I first started Faith on the Journey back in 2018, I had no idea this company would evolve to what it has become today. I was in a season where I felt like God was calling me to step out and start my own ministry, but at the same time, I was unsure of what it looked like. I was also in a space where I was still wrestling with shame and condemnation as a result of the mistakes I made in my past. To be frank, I was stuck in the grips of my hidden pain for years, and I was not able to see my future beyond my hurt. And I remember one day scrolling through YouTube, and I was just checking out this interview of an actor named Christian Keys, and the woman asked him this question. She said, "Are there any major mistakes from your past that you wish you could go back and change?" And instead of him reflecting on a particular moment in his life in which he might have blown it or he regretted, he answered with this unapologetic no. And he instead said each and every one of the mistakes that he made in his life played a critical role in helping him to mature and develop into the man he is today. In other words, this man was not going to live in this place known as regret. And I'm going to be honest with you, his response blew me because I was nowhere near that place mentally. In fact, I had set up shop in this place that I like to describe as the land of if-onlys. You know, that place you go to in your head where you say, if only I didn't do this, or if only this person never did this to me. And I was miserable there. And that's when God spoke to my heart, whispering to my spirit that the mistakes that I made did not have the ability to define me, but it's my ability to give those mistakes as an offering to God to use and redeem for my greater good. God was trying to help me to see that my life is a journey in which we forever will be in process, growing in our understanding and love for Him. And for every second we have air to breathe on this earth, God is on this journey of faith with us. And shortly after that, Faith on the Journey was born. And when I first started this company, I honestly had no idea what I was doing. I just knew my why. I wanted to help people to see beyond their pain, to see beyond the mistakes that they made in their past, to know that they can have joy even in the midst of suffering, and to know that God has the ability to redeem, restore, and heal the broken pieces of our lives. And with that mission in mind, I set out to uncover as many testimonies of God's faithfulness as possible. I interviewed dozens of people and had the honor of writing these incredible stories to share with the world. And many of the people who I interviewed had overcome some incredible challenges, ranging from physical and sexual abuse, financial ruin, infertility, divorce, physical trauma, and grief, just to name a few. These stories touched me deeply. Not only because I was able to witness God's powerful hand at work in their lives, but also because I recognized that these people went through hell and back. And when I say hell and back, I mean it. The people I interviewed went through suffering that would bring the toughest person to their knees. But yet and still they were able to come through the other side victorious. These stories helped me to see that God will meet us at the point of our suffering. And He doesn't waste any of our tears. And He doesn't overlook any of the sacrifices that we've made. Our God stands with us in the fire of our lives, and He will never leave us or forsake us. So one of the first testimonies that I want to share with you today is of my dear friend, Phil Zielke. I met Phil several years ago when I visited a nonprofit called Phil's Friends, and his gentle spirit and love for life was contagious. And it didn't take me long to discern that he also had this deep love for Christ. His faith was cemented by this incredible testimony of healing and accepting God's call. So let's check out the story of Phil Zielke together.
Phil and I dated for 2 years before we found out that he had cancer. I met Phil when I was 18 years old. My best friend was dating Phil's brother, and she said she wanted to introduce me to this guy that I was perfect for. I would say Phil was your average college-aged kid. He was very into sports. School was secondary to him. He had good values. He was brought up in the church, and I could see that in him. But as far as his actual walk with God, his relationship with Jesus, it was definitely lacking. We knew that something had been wrong. He hadn't felt well for quite a while. He had no energy. He'd go to bed at like 6 o'clock at night. And we were in college, so clearly that was not normal. Getting your initial cancer diagnosis and then going through treatment, you're just kind of walking in blind. You have no idea what you're getting into. But it was kind of one of those things you have to take one step at a time, because it would be so overwhelming if you knew what the whole process would look like. So we started doing chemo. The more treatments he did, the more sick he got each time, and the longer it took to bounce back. Phil was in treatment 6 months or so. There is nothing quite like the feeling of having your doctor say that you're cancer-free or you're in remission. Our relationship was a lot more serious after walking through that together, and we got engaged and started planning a wedding.
Once I heard that, I was so mad. Like I was angry because now I had to tell not my girlfriend Carrie, I had to tell my fiance Carrie. Probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was say, Carrie, I don't know if I'm ever going to be your husband. I don't know if we're ever going to get married. I had a job, at this time, so it was different. I had all these kids in my classroom that were excited that I was there. So I had to break the news to my kids. So we'd go outside and we had a little class meeting. And so it was a super bright, sunny day. And I started talking about faith. And then I said, what's the promise, that God's given us, that he's always going to take care of us, especially after Noah and the flood and all that. And the kid raised his hand, he goes, a rainbow. And I said, yeah, that just shows that God is promising to take care of us. And I said, I just want to let you know that I talked to the doctors and I have cancer again. And before you know it, the whole class is crying. And then I look up, I lose it uncontrollably, because what God had painted in the sky was one of the most clear rainbows that I've ever seen. And I knew right there that was the moment for the kids and the moment for me to say, I'm going to be with you. The fact that that promise was so clear and so timely, I walked away from that just saying, all right, I don't know what the future holds, but we got to keep going. The next day I had to check in the hospital again and do it all over. So I went through the 6 months of chemo, and then I got ready for a stem cell transplant. Couldn't have a sip of water for a month, fed by tubes, on oxygen, can't have visitors, and you just kind of lay there, and it was my breaking point. And I said, God, if it's time for me to go to heaven, I'm ready. Like, I believe that Jesus died for me. But if not, I promise, God, to give the rest of my life to you. Once I said amen to that, I started seeing things differently.
He started the process of getting Phil's friends going while in the hospital. We had attorneys come down to the hospital, and we signed paperwork to get everything started while he was too sick to sign his own name. So Phil's friends literally started in his hospital bed.
It's truly a gift when God allows you to be used to start something. So we've seen us go from delivering one care package to now supporting nearly 15,000 people a month through cards in the mail, through care packages, through hospital visits. So we named the building the Hope Center solely for one reason. Our purpose is all about hope. When we talk about hope from a biblical way, we talk about something we can count on. It's rock solid. So I get the question a lot, what I would say to someone who's going through cancer. The biggest thing I'd say to them is to find that community of people to be around, and it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to not know how you're gonna navigate this. If you have questions, that just means you're breathing and you're hearing you got a new diagnosis. When you don't know what's next, God's already there. He's already ready to meet you there. If you look at the whole big picture, it can be overwhelming. Look at just today, because today is really all any of us have. Reach out to God. I think you'll be shocked by what God does and how he uses you. But it's amazing.
Welcome back. Wasn't that a powerful testimony of God's faithfulness? Man, I tell you, this entire month has actually been a blessing like that. We have been highlighting various testimonies of people who effectively transform their pain into purpose. And if you are new to this community, I encourage you to subscribe right now on our YouTube channel and our podcast outlets so you can hear other testimonies like Phil's throughout your week. A link to all of our social media platforms can actually be found in the notes below. Now, the night that I first premiered Phil's testimony, I had just released my first book titled Breaking the Power of the Mask. That book was a passion project that was birthed out of my pain. See, for over a decade, your girl was wrestling with shame and unforgiveness and silence. I had mastered the art of wearing a mask, presenting this picture-perfect, happy-go-lucky woman who had accomplished so much in life. But in reality, I was broken inside. So when God called me down this path to start Faith on the Journey and to create a space to help other people to remove their mask, I began to experience God gently working on me, peeling back the layers of pain that had calloused over my heart for years so that my heart could be softened enough to not only receive God's healing in my life, but to help others. And out of that process, I wrote the book, Breaking the Power of the Mask. Check out this short segment, and then we'll be right back.
I'll never forgive you for what you did to me.
I feel so dirty.
I just don't know who I am anymore.
I can't believe I'll never see him again. I've got to be strong for my family.
I can't let him see me cry.
What happens in this house stays in this house.
I can't take this anymore. I feel like I'm living my entire life behind a mask.
The mask is the keeper of secrets and master of illusions. It despises authenticity, fears transparency, and knows no vulnerability. The mask will stop at nothing to keep its image intact and emotions at bay. In its simplest form, the mask is the facade we project to the world. But what is hidden in the dark will come to light. Even if we master the art of wearing the mask, the pain that we've buried has the power to hold us captive in the shackles of shame, anger, and despair. But there is power greater than our pain, greater than our past, and greater than what the world says about us. There is a God who can heal us from our pain and can free us from defining our values based on the world's standards. There is hope, and you can embark on your journey towards freedom by reading the book Breaking the Power of the Mask by author and motivational speaker Jocelyn Jones. Discover the joy and healing that rightfully belongs to you. No more shame, no more fear, and no more hiding behind the mask.
I'm breaking the power.
I'm breaking the power.
I'm breaking the power of the mask.
Get your copy today by visiting breakingthemask.com. That's it, y'all. We are breaking the power of the mask over here. You ready to remove your mask? If so, make sure you get a copy of the book. And while you're at it, bless a friend too, because this information is so important. And I also want you to know that there's some free resources available for you at breakingthemask.com. Now, it's time for our next incredible testimony of faith. I've had the pleasure of working side by side with this beautiful woman of God in ministry. Back in 2019, we helped to start this girls mentoring program at the Ark of St. Sabina called GEMS, where we had the opportunity to pour into the lives of girls from the south side of Chicago to remind them of the gems that God created them to be. We also worked as volunteers and mentors with this incredible organization called Purpose by Design, which is another amazing mentoring program for girls. We both have a passion for helping girls see who they really are, because for too long, both of us have struggled with what I like to call identity theft. You know, when the enemy, Satan's trifling tail, has stolen your ability to know and fully embrace your true identity as a beautiful, anointed child of God, because you are so blinded by your pain and the lies of the devil. It infuriates me when I think about the amount of people whose purpose, joy, and even life have been stolen because they never truly knew who they are, but also they didn't recognize whose they are. As a child of God, who they belong to. And I'm here to tell you today that there's no more room to believe that you are rejected, damaged, or not worthy. No, none of that. We are chosen children of the Most High God who loves us, who adores us. And it's time for us to embrace our rightful position. So check out our second featured testimonial with Sylvia Collins titled, I am chosen.
As I think back on what my life was like in the Dominican Republic, some of those memories are very faded. The ones that really stand out include the day that I first met the man who was going to be my father, who eventually was going to adopt me and my two sisters. Why? Because my mother had left. There were 6 of us that my mother and father had. We were the 3 youngest. My father was rather abusive. He drank a lot.
My father, when he come drunk to the house, he was beating my mom. My mom had to leave with us, and then he go there and promise her that everything gonna change. Eventually, they start to getting back to the same thing, but finally, she said she can't take it anymore. She was so bad, you know, all swollen, all the face and everything, and yeah. So anyway, and then this is why the reason that my mom left.
When Father Wilson came to the Dominican Republic, he wanted to and had the intention of adopting. And it was my brother, my hero, who said to Papa Wilson, Father Wilson, my sisters need your love more than I do. Because he wanted to take him back to the States and raise him and adopt him. But he said no. He chose us and what was better for us. And that whole process of getting us here to the United States, that whole adoption process, was made easier because my parents were not legally married. So all they needed was a signature from my father. And my brother Joaquin was the one who ultimately made the decision.
I went and talked to him and I said, well, this is the deal. The girls are leaving and I want you to be aware. I explained to him, Father Wilson, and Mama Wilson, you know, he's a priest, she's a professional working in the school district in Baltimore. They're gonna have a good life, good education, better than rough life they have. And he understood, and he kinda got a little bit tear in his eyes. I told him, remember, they're gonna have a better life.
Papa Wilson was the first feeling of God's love that I recall. I don't remember understanding what was really happening other than we were going to America with him. And because he was such a wonderful man, we were not afraid. I remember being happy, but I remember crying a lot though. You know, not understanding, having a lot of questions because it became obvious that we were there to stay. And although I was happy, there was also some thoughts of, are we going back? Is this for real? What's it gonna be like? So through all that joy, there was also this sadness. Children perceive adoption, or even children who are moved from their parents and are moved to be raised with grandparents or aunts or uncles. We still go through that same experience of why did we go from here, what happened? And it may be a better situation, it may be a more loving environment, but as a child you still wonder, did they not want me? Why was I not able to stay there? In spite of the fact that we were in this new world with these amazing parents who gave us all this love, the biggest challenge for me, I just didn't understand why God had chosen me. And they did their best, you know, to help us understand. I was grateful, but I was also feeling that I was not worthy of all of that, that it could have been somebody else, and why was it me? You know, anybody who is already adopted, anyone who is thinking of adopting, it's going to be a challenge. One of the challenges, sometimes there's a bit of shame, but you feel as if you were not wanted And there's a feeling of not fitting in, not wanting to say anything to anybody, maybe being talked about. They say you can't choose your family, but when you're adopted, someone's love creates this need to choose you, to bring you into their lives. So if you are adopted and you feel as if you have to hide behind the shadows, don't. Come out in the light. Your parents picked you. They wanted you. So as I became a parent myself, I realized I had a purpose in my life. It wasn't until Zach was born and I looked at him and I said, oh my gosh, that's one of the reasons I'm here. And he would have never been born, if I had not been here. So the journey continues, but it's a wonderful one. It truly is.
Yes, yes, and more yes. But when I tell you, when I watch stories like that, it just makes me want to shout, because it's nothing more powerful to me than witnessing someone's transformation, someone's journey of stepping into the fullness of what God has called them to be. And I hope you're enjoying yourself so far as we're taking this trip down memory lane to enjoy these powerful testimonies of faith. And if you are enjoying this, I want to ask you a favor. Share this video with at least 3 friends or family members that you know and love. You can't keep all this good stuff to yourself. Jesus wants us to share the good news. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our email list at faithonthejourney.org so you can receive stories of hope and powerful tools to help you grow your faith on your journey. And one of the resources that has been a blessing to me, and I most certainly want to share this with you, is our trauma healing groups. One important lesson that I've learned while doing this work is so many of us have experienced significant trauma in our lives, but we've never categorized it as such. I mean, just in this last year alone, we've all experienced trauma from the spread of COVID-19. Many of us have lost several friends and loved ones while watching our churches and businesses and places of fellowship close. And when we think about the unprecedented levels of gun violence that has taken the lives of our young people, or when, for example, the nation witnesses the horrific murder of George Floyd, moments like that are traumatic. But even beyond what I just mentioned, there are experiences with trauma that have impacted our lives long before this last year. Whether it's at the hands of abuse, a major loss, betrayal, or even a shattered dream, many of us are walking around with open wounds that are in need of care. And it can be scary to dig up these buried wounds of your past. But I want to make sure you know that you don't have to go down this journey alone. We created a space just for you through our trauma healing groups. These groups provide you with a safe space to talk about the burdens of your heart with other believers, while also gaining a deeper understanding of God's desire to heal your open wounds. God never intended for you to carry your burdens alone. We were created with a need for community, and we want to invite you, I want to personally invite you to join ours. You can learn more about our trauma healing groups by visiting faithonthejourney.org. So now, for our final testimony of the show, we are going to hear the story of a dynamic woman of God. She is an award-winning author, speaker, and someone who I consider to be a mentor. She has accomplished so much in life, and there's no question that she is a woman on a mission. But what impressed me even more about Regina was this overcoming fighting spirit that she has, which is fueled by her faith. Regina had experienced a significant amount of trauma in the early years of her life, and the doctors told her that the physical abuse that she had survived had ruined her chances of ever having another child. But you know that the God we serve loves to take an impossible scenario and use it to serve as a perfect setup for a miracle. So let's check out this incredible testimony of Regina Allen-Wilson together.
So I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you're pregnant, but based on your previous history, this pregnancy will never last because of the damage done to your organs and everything else. You should probably abort this pregnancy. And I said, I'm not going to do it because I believe God allowed me to be pregnant again. So in my prayer time, God confirmed that. And this is what I heard. If you're faithful to me, I'm going to be faithful to you. So I committed that, God, I'm going to maintain this pregnancy at all costs, even up to death.
The thing that tipped the scale for me was when the doctor said, okay, we got to hospitalize you for X number of months and put you in the hospital on bed rest. So I'm thinking, why can't you be at home? And the doctor said, like, no, we have to watch her. And that's when I really started to get concerned. Men have a tendency to want to be protective. And then when you can't do anything for a person that you love, or you feel helpless, that's not a good feeling from a male perspective.
When I understood that there was a risk, I became very concerned and scared. And I actually saw my mother, ill, bedridden. I would be going to school and, fixing her grilled cheese sandwiches before I left. And then, she'd be throwing them up. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And, in my way, I understood the potential risk of her life. And so that was scary to me.
At that point, everyone in my family, except for my younger sister, thought I had lost my mind. My daughter Tracy was in tears, and she was saying, Mom, why do you want another child? Am I not enough for you? My husband was like, you're gonna leave me? We've just gotten married. Am I not enough? I can't believe you're gonna make this decision. So I told them all, God has made me a promise to maintain my faith. I'm going through with this pregnancy.
She was dead set on going through the pregnancy and going through whatever the doctors required her to do to have the baby.
I was hospitalized at least 4 times and 4 months during the pregnancy. My baby's lungs, brains, and heart weren't developing. I was having heart attacks. The doctors said, you are going to die. You're literally flatlining. I ascended out of my body and actually saw the figure of Jesus. And I heard the voice that said, yes, I could take you right now, but what about Tracy? And I spiraled right back down. And the doctors were saying, are you ready to just give this up now, Mother? Do you understand how close you are to death with what you're pursuing? And I said, I understand this, but even at that point, I was ready to hang on to Tracy, but I wasn't ready to give up the baby either. And that's when God just brought Nicole on the next day. Long story short, my daughter was born. Everyone thought I'd lost my mind to try and have a baby that would never be normal. When she came out, I looked at her and I asked them, lay my baby on my chest and breast so I could thank God that she was here. They were rushing her to prenatal intensive care. That very same evening, I said I was going to see my baby and to thank God. They told me I couldn't leave. I tore the IVs out, made my way to the nursery. She had tubes everywhere. That day I prayed. I knew only God could get her through the situation. The doctors told me she was very fragile. She'd probably be in the hospital 3 months. I told them, I don't care what you say. God is the doctor. At that point, they sent a doctor in to talk to me because they said, you don't understand the state of your child. Her lungs are weak. Her brain is not fully at the capacity. I went home 2 days later and I got a call and they said my child was fine. They did not understand how strong she had become. I drove to the hospital myself while my husband Don was at work with Tracy and picked up my baby. All I can say is God is faithful. God works miracles. I never gave up. He never gave up on me. And today, my daughter is 6 feet tall. She's a podiatric orthopedic surgeon, has the voice of an angel and the heart of the most dedicated people I know. My favorite scripture is Jeremiah 29:11, because it says, God knows the plans he has for us, plans not to harm us. I love that scripture. I live by it. It has helped me in the darkest hours of my life. God is the truth. God is not a liar, and his promises are real.
My God, wasn't that powerful? To God be the glory. I thank God for Regina, Sylvia, and Phil for giving me the honor of sharing their testimony. And I also want to give a special shout out to my friend Christina Robinson from Preparation Films, who directed and edited each of these feature films. She believed in my vision for Faith on the Journey when it was in its infancy stages, and I'm forever grateful for her. Now, I hope you enjoyed today's special broadcast. And if you are looking to check out other incredible testimonies, you can find several written pieces under our Faith Fridays features on faithonthejourney.org. And this is located in the blog section of the site. Or you can check out our podcast or YouTube channel. I'll also encourage you to check out all the other valuable resources available through Faith on a Journey, including our biblical counseling services and free tools specifically designed to help you grow your faith, heal your heart, and find a sense of community. So that's it for this week's broadcast. You be sure to subscribe, and until next time, you keep your faith on the journey.